Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week in Hospitality Marketing live show number 434. Wow. It's the 1st of December of 2023. And thank you so much for joining me during this time of year. This time of year actually is part of the inspiration of our conversation today about marketing and what you as a listener uh, do in it, professionally wise. There's a lot of interesting people that are on our hospitality marketing club channel, and then it's always an interesting arc as to the demands and workloads associated with what people are needing to do at certain times of the year. Obviously, when you're in the midst of season, there is this heightened sense of what to do. Strangely enough, from a marketing perspective, you're the least bothered because pretty much operations is in full swing to maintain what they're doing for all of the demand. And revenue management is really granular about their day-by-day yielding. And you get kind of not so much in the foray of the front end of conversations. Your, quote, job had been fulfilled if successful in your seasonal demand, that you did all the things to maximize that opportunity. Yours is just touching and tweaking. And really the heavy lifting of what you do during the peak of a season as a marketer is more geared towards when season's not there and you're going into your shoulder times and or down times, and you're looking to cultivate what traffic you have during season as a means of translating that into communication for improving your demand off season. That being said, we all have our cycles of time that we go through, and this time of year for a marketer tends to be relatively, again, quiet. The reason for this is we are very close. We're only within 30 days of a new year. We're at the tail end of the fourth quarter. Our annual budget is where it is, other than maybe trying to shoehorn some things to optimize for the rest of this year. You're really more dealing with logistically availability of people that you deal with on a regular basis, your own team members, your vendors. It's a matter of now people taking personal time off. There's holiday interruptions. There's holiday parties. There's corporate events. Everybody's in that gear mode of ending the annualization. Now, operations, having been there, done that, we're all sitting there going, that's great for you guys. We are freaking heavy tilt. If it's not a banquet event, it's occupancy issues, holiday demand. That's one of the things about food and beverage and operations is holidays is just another work day. It's the price you pay to have the career that you have, in the sense that it's just the joy of being able to be the people that provide the service to the people that enjoy the holiday season. So why am I saying all that? Because in our cycle of work, and it came up in our discussion in the Hospitality Marketing Club, so much of our time, justifiably so, is dedicated to tasks, problem solving, project solutions, resolutions, creations, flow-throughs, adapting and changing to what is demanded to us. That's what we earn our income from. That is our role in our organizations. But it can be very exhausting for everyone and every department and everything. I'm just going to isolate up because we are a show about marketing, not for hospitality, how it relates to us as marketers and for those who deal with marketing for hospitality. And that is, this time of year, you're pretty much on the set mode. Things are done and finished. You should have already been working in July for things that are happening now, and so forth as you progress forward, and only a sharper point to the pencil as time became more into the window of opportunity did you get more detail. Most of the things were already preconceived. Holidays are a very valuable marketing strategy as to definitive times. We know when Christmas is. We know when Hanukkah is. We know when New Year's is. We know when Thanksgiving is, Boxer Day, whatever day. All of these things that impact our business cycles. And depending upon the type of our location and destination interests, it's first of the snow season or cold snap, bringing people to a warmer climate, whatever those things are, we know those influences. So we've done our homework, we've done our work, we've done our setup. What is interesting about this time now is we can invest in ourselves. And I mean that from a very real value proposition for what we're held responsible for. As I mentioned, we have a heavy cycle of demand on tasks and projects and problems that we have to face with our time consumption. And sometimes it's overwhelming in the amount of time we have to dedicate to it and so forth, the long work weeks and what have you. When it comes to creativity, when it comes for curiosity, when it comes for education, it gets backburnered very quickly and oftentimes quite regularly. Um, we just can't seem to either have the time, the motivation, or the validation of learning and being curious. So that was a very long introduction to my topic discussion today, which is giving yourself time to play. I came up in conversation with different clients in different contexts these past couple of weeks, and in the club, we talked about when do we self-invest? When do we take the time to learn a new skill? When do we take the time to follow through with more than just awareness? Um, Let me talk about awareness in comparison to what I'm talking about in the sense of giving ourselves time to play. Awareness is keeping literate on the topics that are in our culture, our environment, things that impact what we do as a business. Seeing an article about the changes in custom audiences for GA4 as an update is an awareness. That's not what we're talking about. That's just, okay, that happened. Learning is taking the time to go past that awareness into what does this mean for me? That's a vested interest of, okay, this is something I should spend more time on because it's going to affect potentially, if not now, down the road, how we're going to be doing things or what our opportunities of using new tools are. So there is a investment that has a higher priority compared to other things. And you might take the time to fully flesh out the article. With that said, I want to bring up an interesting statistic, and I think I referred to it even last week. And I found this staggering. 64% of all shared content is not fully read or reviewed by the person sharing it. It's moved forward when they feel like they've got enough of what they're looking for to know whether or not by sharing it, it's worth their time to do so. A lot of times, people share content because it amplifies the persona that they display online as to who they are, of being that person that knows these things. Here, I'm sharing this article that I think everyone that is following me should be interested in. I know over the course of the shows that we've been doing for all these 10 years, we've talked about my definition of viral. Viral is basically content that you feel represents your digital presence that is shared with people that share your sentiment of thinking it'll improve their digital presence, and they share it to their people as well, and so on and so on. And that's the multiplier that creates a viral post, a viral content. A lot of that is hinged on this awareness and this statistic that almost 2/3 of the people that share content don't fully understand the content or have read even the content before sharing it to somebody and trying to take credit of their awareness over someone else. Everyone wants to let other people know before they know, hence making them aware of what they're already aware. It's the predication model. So for that, a lot of times we get no farther than the awareness of something. Okay, that happened. Don't have time for it right now. There's project X, there's problem Z, there's issue Y. These things are right in front of me. And then when I'm done with those things, last thing I want to do is just jump into something that's related to what I do for work. Maybe I need a mental rest, and I thoroughly encourage that. The meditations and the disconnects and the pauses and the slowdowns and the so forth is kind of what we're talking about with the show today, about giving yourself a chance to play. That's one aspect that we don't really fully dive into, things that we are either aware that might impact our business, which is probably the higher of the catalysts to us to do so, or that we are vested interested in knowing about because it'll improve our capability as a person to do our job. That's the next highest level of engagement value for doing that. And then there is the, why do we even do what we do? We enjoy it. So we're always innately curious about the things that are related to how we do things. And that's the third highest means of motivation to do these kind of things. But I'm talking about the fourth one. The fourth one is wonder if. How about this? Wonder if this could be used for that. That's where it gets into a very unique perspective of not so much looking at something directly to how it's being presented, to how it affects what you think it's directly referring to, but sometimes it's the butterfly wings that flap on the other side of the world, the chaos theory, as to what it produces as a result somewhere completely apparently unrelated but impactful. And that is the conjectures of things, looking at things and trying to understand them, turning them upside down, inside out, looking around them from all angles to see, what does this mean? AI, good example of a chance to just play curious. What the reason I get very critical of the usages of AI is because most people don't get past the superficial stage. They get into the novelty of, oh, I can ask it a silly question, or I can ask it a general question. It's going to take any information, it's going to make it sound good. Doesn't mean it's accurate, doesn't mean it's truthful, doesn't mean it's vetted. It just means that I got an answer that I thought I liked, especially if it's a self fulfilling answer that it validates why I was even asking the question to begin with. That's why I get critical of it. But have you actually taken time to be curious about AI? Curious beyond its functionality for our jobs, always keeping in mind that we always frame our perspectives with our jobs, but just the curious. Let's take it and do this with it. I wonder if this could be done with this. I wonder if this talks to this. I wonder if the talking to this makes a difference for what it generates for this. The sit back, think it through, ponder the universe. Now, before you say, Loren, we always have come up with ideas. We have ideas. Sure, there are ideas. They usually fade into oblivion because the idea needs research. The idea needs time. The idea needs fleshing out. It needs creative juices. It needs collaboration. It needs lots of things for an idea to go from an idea to a concept, to a plan, to a program, to an implementation, because it has to go through several opportunities to be disassembled from what isn't useful and reassembled with the parts that are. And that comes from diligence and time. And this is when the critical three questions that always happen with projects come into play. And they get asked and discussed, and I refer to them many, many times in C-level discussions. What's our revenue potential? What's our cost potential? And who else is doing it? Because as I've pouted many times before, so many companies want to think that that they're trendsetters and first adopters and so forth. Very few companies have the cojones to be first to fail. Many want to be close enough to the first to fail to be innovators. They want to be the ones that learn from the failure of the first so that they don't repeat the failure, but not too many failures that they're at risk for so they can take the credit for their intelligent success of adoption. Usually a lot of companies are very far behind any of those ones, and they are late to it only when it becomes validated by others. Now, sometimes that's a bigger company can afford to fail. Sometimes it's a smaller company that can fail because they're small. But whatever it is, a lot of companies wait to see the failure rate. And from that failure rate, they determine their probability of engagement. Before we even get to those ideas of how it works, we have to understand how creativity works in our organization. We're so busy doing our work. It's like taking a beautiful fish out of the ocean and putting it into an aquarium. It loses its habitat. It loses its ability to be the hunter in its environment or its context. It's really just on display. And because of that, it begins to forget how to survive if you were to put it back into the ocean again. A lot of people that we bring into our organization as certain projects, we overburden them with more work than their job the time can allow. And then on top of it, we don't give them a break. It's like we're trying to get as much out of them as possible production-wise. So they're always faced with problems, always faced with tests, always faced with projects. And we don't give them an allotment of time that can be exploring and discovering. Research and development, if you want to put a tag and a label to it. That exploratory what or if and how about, which is frustrating because they may have had that skill or was using the skill, which is what impressed you about them and brought them onto your team when they were, quote, out in the wild. But now they're on your team, they need to focus on your team stuff. And they need to focus on what your agencies are doing, or if there is your agency, what exactly they're doing. And what begins to happen is they begin to lose their awareness of what's going on outside of your ecosystem of your business. They don't have time to keep up with the articles they used to keep up with that impressed you, that they knew about new things. They don't have new toys to give you that you hired them for because they're working in another organization and they were doing things differently, and this intrigued you and you brought these people over to do the same thing for yours. Once that gets exhausted, what else do they offer? Well, they're just now another cog in your system because they're not keeping themselves fresh. And I'm not saying everybody does and doesn't do this. I'm just saying this is the value of why you want to do this. You want learning time. So you say, oh, well, we send them to conferences. 90% plus, and I'm making that statistic up uh, courteously, of people on stages are not sharing anything worth being listened to. Most of them aren't the ones doing the work themselves, and they're just regurgitating what their team is telling them they did, and they're not giving you the how-to because they're on stage not to educate you; they're there to sell you. This is what we do. If you want to have this done for you, you have to hire us. I'm not here to tell you how to do it for yourself. I'm here to impress you that we've done it and that you should reach out to us to do it for you. But I'm not here to go over and put up a board and tell you this is step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. They might have good teasers about it. They might have good lead-ins or buzzwords or statements that get you thinking that they're revealing something. But at the end of the day, they don't. Very few. And then there's training courses. Strangely ironic, the training courses are really also just sales gen leads to get engagement of your interest in it so that they can pitch you why they can do the services that you're interested in learning about. We're in that trap all the time. So both sides know what each other side is doing. So it's this mixture dance of how can I get out of you what I want at a cost that's affordable to me for what I need, and you're on the other side trying to figure out how to get as much out of me for what I want, for what you're willing to sell. That's the dance we have at conferences. Booths have it, stage presentations have it, online webinars have it, how-to webinars or lead gens for selling products. Well, now that I've teased you with all the things that this thing can do and giving you a sense of some aspects of it, but they're just pieces to a puzzle. You can't see the whole picture. But if you buy my book or if you buy my series or if you buy my training, you'll get the first stage. And the next thing to do, as soon as you buy the first stage, well, this is great you did, but if you really want this, it's just a little bit more. I mean, how many times have we gotten into those funnels? I do it all the time with software. Oh, this software does this software does this. You get in there, it's like, it does, but here, we're going to give you what we said that you're going to pay for, but you have this unique offer right now that if you just pay a few more dollars, you get all this library of this or all this next phase of this and so forth and so on. And there's the fun part. They just don't know when to stop. Say, oh, that makes sense. Let me go add that in there. And you do that. But wait, there's even more. And they keep dragging you on to the point where you're like, seriously, I've upgraded what I was initially going to buy 3 times. And you're still trying to get me to buy yet something more. And I haven't even used the first one. And that's why I always get a kick about reviews. Can you give us a great review about our product? I just bought it. I haven't even unwrapped it yet. How am I going to give you a review about this? If you give us a review, we'll give you something free. Okay, I just unwrapped it. Good luck with you guys. The idea is that it's very hard to have somebody offer you the manna, the bread that you want for a solution. A lot of times it just takes good old-fashioned curiosity and research that takes time to look for and be aware of the changing world. Now, I feel very good that I've come comfortable with the pace in which things change in our industry. Technology, usabilities, functionalities, means, logistics. As I span the entire time I used to do all of this, I'm in amazement of what we used to be happy about 15, 20 years ago is not even table stakes. It's default bad to even think we would do the same things or try to do the same things now, how much things have progressed. We used to tout this fire hose of things that happened with no means to filter and sort through all this. We've gone through the buzzwords of that. We've gone through the buzzwords of big data. We go through a lot of buzzwords every year as to things that overwhelm or excite us as to things. And I feel pretty good about that I've kept up with modifying how I keep track of things as the pace increases. I've done that by realizing there's just certain categories of things I'm interested in. I can't keep up at the same pace of certain categories that I need to be more in tune with. Curiosities of things that I like to do play a backseat to the things that I need to know more about because I'm actively involved in using those particular things or functionalities or means and processes. But I feel pretty good about it. I can tell you that right now, end of 2023, as we go into December now, into 2024, I'm nervous in my ability to keep pace with even singular topics, primarily AI and data. It's been a high focal point for me now for several months, especially with the transition to GA4, the lead up to the transition to full GA4, now GA4 being expanded and used and so forth. What's happened is in one of those funnel charts, more and more resources are being allocated to lesser topics or fewer topics because it requires more time to understand them, more time to invest in them, to keep pace with the new changes that are happening to them. And what's happening is instead of being generally aware of some things, I'm specifically aware of certain things. And I'm, to scale, moderately aware of other things, and I'm casually aware of other things. It's turned into this scale of availability. And that's all good until one of these ones that you're not paying full attention to or partial attention to all of a sudden becomes a major attention to. Case in point, GA4. GA4 was one of those topics 2 years ago that was being kept aware of by me. Then it turned into a heightened topic. And then it turned into a primary topic. And it's now fractioning so many places because what most discussions don't happen is the functional use of GA4, its adoption of so many things in so many places, and what they're doing with it as it connects to the ability of artificial intelligence is giving us a whole new realm of possibilities of what can be done with that combination. But I find bedazzling, like walking through a field and picking up nuggets of gold, is that there are so many things that are being produced for other reasons that when you take the optics and the filter of what it can do for hospitality and look at these same tools that are built for other reasons or functions that are used for other purposes, you begin to see this amazing network of possibilities of what things can do to improve our industry, our marketing, our operations, our revenue strategies, our perspective on guest engagements, so many things. And for that reason, I look at it and say, when do I have the time? I have work, as everybody has work. So I have tasks and projects to do. I have things to accomplish, goals to make, targets to hit, so forth and so on, as with everybody. When do I get to think those big, lofty thoughts of, wonder if there was an AI that wonder if could talk to this? And that's where this whole concept of the topic today of when do you have time to play? When do you take the time to say, this isn't about a project, this isn't about a task, this isn't about a problem. This is about thinking about things, thinking about stuff. Now, you may say, well, I'm going to go and have entertainment. This is not a replacement of entertainment. This is an idea of taking the time that you had an idea like, oh my gosh, I just read this article and there's this one. I wonder if this is possible. And that you might even have to track that idea. Hey, go look at such and such. I've looked at a lot of my dictation notes, my quick notes, my reminder notes, my wake up in the middle of the night, let me write that down before I forget it notes. And a lot of them I'm going, what was I thinking? What? Because I didn't give enough context to what my idea was. I knew it was brilliant when I thought of it. So much so I don't even know what I was brilliant about when I read it again. I know that can be possibly an old age thing. Who knows? Maybe there's better ways to do it. I welcome anybody's comments in the chat and on the channels that we're broadcasting on to give me any of their insights as to how they keep track of things. But a lot of times these ideas never get fleshed out. And strange as it may be, sometimes somebody else may have thought the same thing and acted on it and created something going, God, I had that idea. That's exactly what I thought of back when. Well, when was that? Oh, well, years ago, but you didn't do anything about it. So many ideas get lost into the ether as to, well, that would have been great if we could do this to this. Wonder, hey, we just found this tool works this way. I wonder if it connected to this, we could do this. I find that most when I go over tools and stuff with the podcast. You talk about the what ifs of tools. I get nicely compliments and thank yous for those who have sent them that I show the usage of these tools in a way that they probably, well, actually, I know for a fact weren't designed for, but keeping it through the filter of what can it do for hospitality marketing or just marketing sometimes changes the scope of what the tool's value is. I even have people that built the tools reach out to me and say, dude, can we use your podcast? Can we use your video review of it? Because we hadn't thought that our tool could be used for that. And you showed us a new function value of our tool. After we'll be talking about one of those today, completely unrelated to our conversation today, but it's about being able to just literally identify an area and ask all the demographic information you want about it. It's just such a cool thing. You click on it, and it'll tell you populations and work and income levels and everything else down to the zip code. So it's clickety, clickety, click. So if you want to go over and look at feeder markets and get a little bit more sense of why am I getting traffic from that feeder market, you just click it. Anyway, podcast conversation for today. And we'll go over the tool that does it. And it's really a cool tool and dirt cheap. It's just somebody took and said, here's this database and here's AI. And I need to make a UI to make both the user interface to make both of those work. And they did. And they made it affordable, like dirt cheap affordable. And all of a sudden it's like, that's a very cool tool. If you see it for its value. Anybody else be like, what do I care if I outline an area and know what the income levels and so forth? You wouldn't unless you're a marketer. Anyway, that's the play stuff. The idea of following your ideas and giving yourself time to do it without the guilt of what did it cost you to do that? Of like, oh, well, I should have worked on that project or I should have worked on that tech. Because here's what happens in our very real world. I made mention the fact that maybe somebody got brought onto your team because they were doing something different at another group and that impressed you all for the role that you were wanting them to potentially do for you, and you brought them in. You adopted what they were doing. You're using what they're doing. That's great. But you're not investing into your team members. Yes, like I said, the conference angle and so forth, it's like great. Exposure to variety of stuff is great. Under the context of being exposed to what other people are doing. You should know that there's people out there doing these things and what they're doing in whatever way they want to present it. Being educated from it into a process of reduplicating is the contention I have that you can't often do. But going to these conferences is great for awareness. Like, oh my gosh, I never thought about doing that, but here's somebody that's trying to do that. Good to know. Maybe I should research that a little bit. That's the value of conferences. That's the value of presentations and so forth. So that's done, but then now another vendor comes in. You have a vendor, they're doing work, and you get another vendor that's trying to get your business, and they're pitching different stuff. So you listen to them. It sounds intriguing. Our vendor doesn't talk about that. And, so then you decide, well, this is something new and different. Let's go chase the shiny object. And maybe you sacrificed what the good parts of your current vendor were doing for the shiny objects of the next vendor. And they don't do the good stuff that the old vendor did, but they did do the shiny stuff, and the shiny stuff wasn't as good as you thought it was, whatever it was. We seem to be intrigued with the idea of newness and innovation. We love being impressed by people doing things that we can't do ourselves. And I say that just out of the fun context of things like watching the Red Bull video TV station. What would it be like to be the first person to put one of the little wingsuits on and said, okay, we're going to jump from a cliff and we think this suit will let you fly. I looked there, it's like, I probably wouldn't be the first in line, but I applaud the heck out of the person that they're willing to say, well, this could go one of two ways. I'm either the first to have done it and I get the status of that and the awareness of it. People, say, wow, look at how amazing it is. Or I'm the first person to suffer from not having it quite fleshed out into a technique that works. Either which way, we are amazed by the capabilities of people that do things first, the innovation that comes from it all. We just often want to find ourselves being those people. We want to take it on when it's a little bit safer, when it's a little bit more proven, when it's a little bit more defined. And yes, we sacrifice the adrenaline being the first, but we also get to enjoy the fact of the safety of the outcome being a little bit more preordained. The idea of play and taking time to learn and educate is to re-inspire yourself, your team, your vendors into a realm of what's possible. You're talking about people that are very skilled at what they do, knowledgeable about what they do. And for that reason, why not give them the ability to expand what they're capable of doing by giving them designated time, designated opportunity to be creative, to play. Now, you're not leaving this of like, okay, Loren, you have 2 hours on Friday to go play. Well, Lauren's going to look at it going, well, I'm just tired. I have no interest in thinking about anything that's related to what I would be thinking about for work playtime. I just want to take 2 hours and go take a nap. So I'll tell them, yes, I was having deep creative thoughts. It's not about holding me to a standard or somebody to a standard and saying, well, what did you produce out of your playtime? It's about making sure that what you're asking for is identified in a way that they can respond back, meaning they can talk about what they did. Not that they have to produce what they did, not that they have to have a timestamp or a recording of what they did, but a matter of conversation. So a couple hours of time that we've invested in you to take the time to learn and educate. What are some things you guys are, what are you looking at? What are you thinking about? Well, I was thinking about AI and the usage in the cosmic universe for cosmic rays. Okay. Personal curiosity is great. Our relationship is based on our business. What are you doing that is creatively interesting on the profession of what you're doing? I'm not asking for you to take a needlepoint, unless you think that's a way to sell people to do needlepoint at our hotel. Put it in context. Why are you thinking about these? Well, I've always wondered about this and this. Okay. Is there any resources you need with this? Is there, this month, to let you know, myself and some of my team, and we made an open invitation to some of our clients that we're going to have scheduled playtime. And I will bring the toys, as I said. I'll amp up my ChatGPT account so we have access to it. I'm going to bring a bunch of software that use ChatGPT to construct RPAs and workflows and API interfaces and data collections and so forth. And we're going to sit not in the same room. We're not trying to make this a major event. It's a matter of just a time where we get a cup of coffee, casual beer if we want to, wine, whatever. And we're going to whiteboard and think about, well, we have this and we do this. Wonder if we constructed this and would it connect to this? And we're going to have an open play date, several of them actually, where we're just going to take time and have fun. And why did I bring up the whole Christmas thing in the beginning and the end of the month and all this other stuff? Because now's a good time. Now's a good time to say, you know what, with everybody's challenging or changing schedule demands right now of holidays and personal time and parties and travel and the fact that revenue management, marketing, and management in general tend to be more of a backseat role compared to the operations and associated with fulfillment of people that are at the hotels. This is a bit of a softer schedule demand because you can't get access to people because they're on holiday. So you have, what normally used to be scheduled calls now have gap points in your schedule and so forth. Fill them in with playtime. Fill them in with, let's take some time and think about this as a topic. What would how can we use AI? How can we use RPAs? Let's look at our dashboards. And it's not about being a problem or a topic or thing. It's a catalyst. It's a topic to start the conversation. Where it goes after that is based on the participants. But the idea is, well, not that we don't have time for this. We got to get back to the problem solving. We got to get back to the task generation. We got to get back to the reporting. We got to get back to whatever it is. This is one of those times in conversations that are slated that's like nothing has to come out of it except for that we spent the time thinking about it. That's the real value of playtime, is the indulgence that we don't get to give ourselves most all other the time. We're giving ourselves at this time. Let's think about what would be a what if. Let's ponder with all of us collectively how this could actually even be a potential of something. And because of the people being professional and being skilled at what they know and intimate with the conversations between what we're talking about, whether the client's engaged or whether our team members from different departments are engaged, we have this wonderful ability to not just think of our only voice in our head. We hear other people talking about the same thing. We get to defend or scrutinize ideas. We get to look at more of, well, I probably should look at that more. I don't really know that much more about it. To somebody else being on the call going, oh, I looked into that. And yes, they can do this. Oh my gosh, that just saved me having to go look and whether or not it's interesting enough to bring back, whatever. And that's kind of where the Hospitality Marketing Club actually has its core values, is the people that are on the club. This is kind of what we do. We talk obviously about problem-driven solutions. We talk about situational issues and ways of resolving, or other ways people have used it, or tools that people use, or things that get handled and so forth. But primarily it's a chance to talk at a peer level about people doing the same thing we're doing, about conversations and content and topics in a way that's about solving and fixing and creating and doing. The idea beyond it is what we're talking about today, which is the ability to just do the what ifs and how abouts and wonders. The chance to invest in being that innovative person, because I know firsthand on both sides of the conversation, the difference between being the person that has been telling my management team ad infinitum what they need to do, and some Yahoo nameless vendor walks in and gets asked the same question that I've answered 1,000 times the same way, and they say the same thing I've said, but they're being listened to and I'm not. It's like, oh my freaking gosh. Unbelievable. I've been telling you this all along, but some stranger tells you this and it has more validity than the person that you trust telling you this. Frustrates the hell out of me. And in reverse, I've been the other person. I've walked in and literally said what was told to the person by their own team, and they're listening to me as if I just told it to them for the first time, going, you do know that they've been on your team, been saying that, right? Everyone looks for newness. Everyone looks for something that they do. And the politics of white noise, of hearing the same person say the same thing or be the person that always reacts a certain way, you get a pattern of how you interpret them or give them rankings as to the priority of your listenership to them. This declutters that. Everyone's looking for the newness or difference. Everyone wants to do what the other person's doing if they're doing it better, or at least they're perceived doing it better. Everyone wants to know fear of missing out. Is something being done that I'm not doing that I should be doing? And is somebody else doing it that I can learn from, or is somebody doing it for them that I can have them do them for me as well? These are the choices that a lot of decisions in management get based on. Vendors are entrusted by clients to be that resource for them, and good vendors hold up to it. Good vendors expose their clients to new things, awarenesses, options, things to consider. Bad vendors exploit it. They keep their conversations defined to their service profile. They keep it specific to what they offer. They're also probably the same vendors that manipulate the reporting in such a way that the featured numbers always are featured positive for them, even though they might not be the same numbers from the previous month because they didn't feature them positively the month before. The adaptive reporting process that we've condemned so many times. So vendors should always try to be that resource if asked from a client of what's new, what they should be aware of, what should be considered, and be able to answer questions, or at least if they don't have the immediate answer, go find the answer from a client asking about things. And may not mean that it's in their service profile. It might mean that there's other resources that might be under consideration by the client to consider because you or they as a vendor don't offer them, but they have already isolated the fact that it might be valuable for the client to include them. That trust from a vendor gets rewarded by durability and collaboration. They don't get thrown out all the time like, well, you guys can't do it. And even though you told us we should be doing this and you found us the person that can do it because you guys don't do it, we're going to kick you out anyway. That's very, very rare of a conversation. Not that doesn't happen, but it's very rare of a conversation. Usually it's like, wow, we trust you, which is way more important in so many ways than so many other things that other vendors try to say is tangible. So the idea for our conversation is about taking the time to go play, the genuine time, the curiosities, hey, that was an idea that I thought about but never fleshed out. Let me go back and look at what's tangible about it. Is it still an idea, or is it just a crazy thought at the time and taking it under scrutiny? Maybe not as much. The what ifs, the how abouts, taking the opportunity to talk through those, think about them, look for resources, or if there's something that piqued your interest, taking the time to look at those resources. I've really taken a shine to a present that was given to me last year by one of my clients, and I thank her very much for it. It's been a huge benefit. There was a masterclass stuff. We get to listen to some very well-known people that are successful for how they are successful, share their perspectives of things. Some of it's just fun and interesting. Other stuff is useful and profound. Also, the fact that there's so many places to get content. First, free, exhaust free. And you might say, well, free is what you give, it's what you pay for. Yes, to a lot of extent, but there's also a lot of lead gen stuff that people have to throw out some kernel of truth to get your interest to think they're going to get your contact information. There's a lot of shared papers, and gosh knows there's a ton of people out there trying to just gen AI stuff and say that it was them that wrote it. But you can quickly sort through that uselessness and find out that stuff that is useful. Look for the helpful guides. Look for the tidbits of stuff that, knowing that you're going to download such and such guide from some vendor about something that you're interested in learning more about, you might get 1 or 2 pages of relevant usefulness, a couple of pages of validating statistics, and a whole bunch of pages about sales pitches of what they will do for you for all of it. But take the 1 or 2 pages that have data. I constantly am scraping little bits and pieces off of things. I have automations that will go over and research based on topic and content. They're constantly generating things. I have another software that will go over and let me sign up with an anonymous email that constantly feeds the newsletters and the blog posts and things that I try to keep track of, which are all sources of data that you tidbitted out. I have another platform that looks at, following certain sources of things. There's so many people that want to offer expertise that are really just selling you what they've genned as education. There's a lot of other really tangibly good resources that you will quickly learn based on the topic you're discovering that are good sources. There is a tremendous amount of good data on places like Discord and a tremendous amount of crap that's out there. The idea is to look for what you find is reputable, see what people refer to, see what people link to in a way that is beneficial for the context that they're linking to for, rather than just the shareable bait that they don't even know what they're sharing. You're an intelligent person in the role that you're in and knowledgeable about what you do. You'll quickly be able to sift through a tremendous amount of stuff that's rhetorically rehashed, regurgitated from other sources. Find the source that came up with it. Find the person that was the first to share it and see and if they're interesting enough to follow and learn more from. There's so many other resources on YouTube. The bajillion. Everybody uses YouTube for home improvement, repairs, autos, whatever. There's a whole world of how-tos with stuff. Videography, SEO, SEM, usages of platforms, usages of tools. It's an endless amount of data, overwhelming amount of data that, as I said, you have to rank what amount of time you can spend on the categories of interest that you can do these types of researches for. But gather them, because I'm constantly looking and saying, well, I just have to chunk that all out. I never got to be able to look at that stuff. So you always look at current. Don't overwhelm yourself with mountains of data that you will never go back and look at, because by the time you're looking at 6-month-old stuff, it's not worth looking at. Look at things that are relevant. Cull it out if you haven't got to it. Look at the stuff and see if there's not anything you might be missing for the reason why you first started following it, and modify its priority if you need it. But the idea is there's so much out there that you can find, so much out there that you can validate and be useful. And then when you really begin to hone in on the things that you need to be better at or more knowledgeable at, you have to learn a skill. The next thing is invest in learning the skill. I think that it's, you said, well, my boss is going to pay me to take the class. Present it so that it's just not you assuming that. If they shoot it down and they don't understand the value of you having that skill, then take it anyway. Invest in it anyway, because they're not a boss you want to hang with. Take it, learn it, and then sell yourself on the market for the boss that will say, oh my gosh, you want to go over and take the time to take the class? I'll buy the class. You want that boss, because they know that by the better you get and the more loyal you are and you have more and more skills, the more that their company or business will succeed. The boss that doesn't want to invest in you because you ask them to pay for an SEO class or an SEM class or whatever it is like that. Meanwhile, your guys are buying squishy toys for salespeople as a Zachotsky at a booth. Hey, go find another boss. The idea is self-investment is critical. Growth is critical. Curiosity is critical. Because if you just take the job and do what's being asked of you as a job and get overwhelmed and swamped with the deluge of demand to your role, you become old, stale, and outdated, and you'll constantly be outmaneuvered by the people that didn't limit themselves, which is why it's important to have a play date. So with that, for everyone watching us on Facebook, multiple pages, LinkedIn, my profile, X, even though it's a useless platform, YouTube, multiple channels, Twitch for using your media console, and of course on our TV station, the Hospitality Channel, which you can find on your Amazon TV, Apple TV, Google TV, Apple's Google, Amazon, Roku TV, and all smart TVs. Just look for the Hospitality Channel. The live show is always on the free side of it. We have paid content behind it if that's what you're interested in. If you're a hospitality professional in marketing and want to join our club, please do so. Hospitalitymarketing.club. Put your email in, and we'll get talking. Also, our podcast is perpetual. You can find us on 39 different platforms in as many countries around the world. Our TV channel is in 209 countries. Everything's translated in at least 11 languages. We also have the Hospitality Radio station, which is on multiple platforms internationally. We rebroadcast this live show at 11:30 a.m. Sydney, Australian time, 11:30 a.m. Wednesdays, London, UK time for our EU friends. So with that, my name is Loren Gray. I thank you for the privilege of your time, and I look forward to talking to you all next week. And go play. Bye.